All right, welcome to today's show. I'm going to talk today about how I placed some trades and got into some positions about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and give you some updates on what's happening with MicroStrategy, what's happening with some different trades that I placed a week and a half ago, and how I'm making decisions for the short term and also the long term. And obviously, Bitcoin is up today, so we're looking at Bitcoin reaching over $102,000 today, which is super exciting. And it looks like we are going into the next leg of the bull run here, which is super, super exciting. We had to kind of stomach the last 2 weeks of Christmas with the not so great gift or news from our good friend Jerome Powell on the interest rate cuts for next year, and also the not so good response about Bitcoin and the United States not being able to hold Bitcoin from his perspective. But we had some turnarounds recently, and we have broken 100,000 again. We're up over 102,000, and MicroStrategy has rebounded like crazy. So MicroStrategy, when she runs, and today she ran. And then for those of you who've been following me, I'm going to talk about another stock, MSTU, and how that has run recently as well. This is not financial advice. This is not tax advice. This is not legal advice. And I'm not giving investment advice here. I'm just showing you for educational purposes some moves that I've made with my own choices and my own future that have paid off well. So I'm going to jump into some of those here in a moment. And it's really interesting to see what is happening right now. We know the great news that Saylor has tapped the ATM again. So last night he announced that in his own discreet way that another Bitcoin buy was coming for MicroStrategy, and certainly he did do it. He did it today. He announced it, and the world knows. So MicroStrategy, no secret, they continue to buy Bitcoin. That's exciting. What I want to do right now is show you a specific two trades that I made last week or a week and a half ago. One was from the perspective of a short term in and out, and the other was just a long-term move, seeing that MicroStrategy about a week and a half ago, I started to see it as being at the bottom. And so I decided to layer in and make some moves that ended up resulting in about a 60%, actually higher than a 60% gain over the last week or 9 days. And I'm going to show you that today. Okay. So again, today is about two things. One, long-term, and how I'm holding for long-term on certain assets. And number two, certain trades that I made and how I was patient in making these trades. And even as the market kept dropping, I hung in on some of these trades, and I've ended up being up high in the one trade that I made that was short-term. And then I'm also up extremely high on some moves that I made last week when I thought the market was at the bottom. So we got Tony Zhang in here. Tony's like, my goodness, MSTU rocks today. Yeah, Tony, what are we up? Like 25% on that, right? MSTX, 23.5%. So the exact number on MSTU, to answer your question, Ecology, is can't tell you what it was at market close because I'm also on market after hours right now. So I'm not sure exactly, but around the same thing. So I'll get you the exacts in a minute. So that is the story. So I'm going to jump in and share some screens with you right now on some charts on the positions that I entered a week and a half ago. And then I'm going to show you how I looked at it, how I made the decision to stay in the trade, and then how I made the decision to get in when the market was bottoming out, and how it paid off. And this is not investment advice. Also, what I'm about to show you are charts that I use with TradingView, and they're scripts that I use from Invest Answers. I do not represent either organization. It's just me using some software and some technology out there to make better decisions. Okay. So Ecology says MSTU is 23.33%. There you go. We got Richard here. All right. So let's jump in and look at some of these trades and analyze this here for a moment. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So what do we got here? All right. So what we have here is something that I've been trading for a little while here with MSTU. Okay. This is a 2x version of MicroStrategy. So if you watch my video last night, I was talking about MicroStrategy, and we were using the metaphor of MicroStrategy being like a Bitcoin refinery. When you look at crude oil, they take crude oil, they put it through the oil refineries, and out the other side of the refineries comes jet fuel, gasoline, diesel, so forth and so on. With MicroStrategy, you have Bitcoin as the metaphor being crude oil. Bitcoin gets refined by the refinery of MicroStrategy, and out the other end, you have MicroStrategy. And you have shares of MicroStrategy. You also have other institutions that have created funds like MSTU, which is like a 2x on MicroStrategy. And you also have MicroStrategy bonds, which are like a 0.75x is what they trade to actually what Bitcoin is. Okay. So, and that's just hypotheticals based on past performance. So we look at this and we go, okay, great. For me, when I start looking at investing some money and playing around with a certain percentage of my portfolio, I'm looking for some more high leverage stuff. So I'm interested in the MSTU trade. And so MSTU, if you look at what it's trading at right now, at the close of market, it closed at about 12.5. To get you exact, so the close of market, it closed at about 12.58, the stock. Okay. When you look at MicroStrategy is sitting right now at the close of market, it closed at 379. So when you look at MicroStrategy went up by 11.61% per today. And MSTU, the 2x version of MicroStrategy, went up 23.3%. Okay. So that's a big day for MicroStrategy, and Bitcoin is up 3.24% today. All right. So when you look at MSTU, a 2x of MicroStrategy, it went up about double to what MicroStrategy went up. And that is the goal of the actual fund, MSTU, is to get 2x the returns of MicroStrategy. All right. So on the chart here, I'm going to draw and show you the moves that I made recently. The first thing to look at here is just the fact that obviously we have like this huge upward trend here, right? You look at this graph today and you look at the blue line going all the way up, okay? And that's from the date here is Thursday, January 2nd. This starts to move, and you see it run all the way up now to today, which is Monday, January 6th. So we see this move over a 4-day period, right? So if you're looking at the bottom here, I'll circle out kind of the bottom of where we were at. But I'm also going to circle where the buy signals came in on this. So the market bottomed out for MSTU right around here where I'm circling. Okay. And that price point for MSTU days back, which was December 31st, right around December 31st. Let's look. Yeah, December 31st, where I've circled this. You see the yellow trend line turn to blue. And so it bottoms out here right around $7.57 for MSTU, this stock. Okay. Now you look at the price point today up here, present time, even at after hours trading, where I'm circling to the top left, and you see it's $12.34. So I don't know what move that is mathematically from the bottom precisely, but it's about, if you're looking at that, it's something like 60% or so. That's about a 60% move up from the bottom. Okay. So two things, right? One, and this is interesting to look at this. So one, initially, I'm going to get rid of this. Initially, this is a 10-minute chart. So initially, if you look at the indicators on this chart, when I was doing some short-term trading on this, the initial trading on this was to get into this trade right around here, which was at $9.61. Okay. So if you watch my YouTube video on like Friday, December 27th, I placed this trade, and you'll watch my YouTube video like a day later, and I'm like, I'm down 15% in this trade. That was what my YouTube video was. So you look at the price point here, and where I'm circling it, it's about $9.61. So that's around where I got into this thing. Okay. Got in a little bit higher. And so then you watch this drop, and you watch this drop all the way down. And again, the first buy signal comes in here where the yellow turns to the blue on this circle, right? You see the yellow line turn to blue. And that's part of the buy signal that comes in, okay? There's 3 indicators that get you to buy. I'm not going to go into that in this session, but there's 3 indicators. Actually, I'll go into it. So one of the indicators here is this green arrow that comes in. The next indicator here is the yellow turns to blue. And so you see it here where the yellow line here is turning to blue. It's the second indicator, okay? And then there's a third. If you look lower down here where you see, or I'm circling down here, you see this graph here, or this plotted line here is below the green line. And so there's 3 indicators that give you the first signal to buy, right? So we have that, but I bought in there initially. And I was buying in here initially from the idea of this was going to be a short-term trade. My goal was to get in and get out. And normally how these trades run, you're in for a day or two and you're in and out. You could be in and out for a 5% win, in and out for a 10% win, in and out for a 20% win. You could also be in and out for 5 or 10% loss or 20% loss, right? So that's where the first signals come in there where I circled. Then you watch the second signal that also comes in down here. And this is the second signal to buy in. You got the green arrow, and then you got the yellow line that turns to blue. And so you have the second signal to buy in here. And then you have, like, you look at this line down here below the trend line here. It's below the green dotted line, and that's the third indicator to buy. So you have the green arrow up here. You have this below the green dotted line here. And then you have the yellow turning to blue up here. And that's a second buy signal, okay? So at this point, I don't buy in again. I'm sitting in my first trade, right? But there's a second signal to buy. And this is also the danger and the risk also of trading, right? Because now we're watching, my first initial buy-in was at like 9. Now, if you look at the price point here, it's at $8.49. So I bought in at like 9.7. Then it drops to $8.49. You're like, okay, it's dropping some more. And then you look here and you watch it drop some more. We'll go over here. Oops, get rid of that. And then you watch here and it drops again. And this is where we kind of bottom out. You'll see down here. We bottom out on this down here where I'm circling at like $7.50 or whatever. Okay. So the point is that, like, I placed a trade when it was at $9.70. Okay. And I watched it ride all the way down 25% or what have you. But I didn't sell out on it. Just watched it ride all the way down. So from a short-term trading perspective, normally I would be in that trade, out of that trade in a couple days. And again, you can lose money trading. This is not investment advice. This is not financial advice. I'm just showing you how I use different technology to make decisions. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm wrong. In this particular case, initially I was wrong because you watch it drop. And so you watch it go from 9.7 down to 7.5. I mean, that might even be a 30% drop, right? So you're sitting down there at 7.5 and the world's bearish and people are like, oh my God, what happened? Everything's going down, right? And that's part of investing. But I stay in the trade. And I'm like, I'm not selling out because my stable operating basis for MicroStrategy and Bitcoin over the next 6-7 months is that it's eventually going to go back up. So if I get into a trade high like that, I know eventually this thing's going to go back up. So from a short-term perspective, if we go back here, let's just watch it one more time. From a short-term perspective, I get it. Look at this graph. I mean, look at where I get into this trade initially. I get into this trade, what? Was it back here? Yeah. I get in here at 9.47 or 9, whatever it's at 9 points. I bought in at like 9.7 or 9.8, but that's where it's telling you to buy around 9.6 something. So that's technically where I bought. And you just watch this thing ride all the way down. You see this? Okay. So on my short-term trade, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just going to hang in for this thing. Okay. And so that date like shows that you need to be patient sometimes. And that's Friday, December 27th. And so now I'm holding on to that trade, and we go all the way here, and we watch it go down even more. And then we watch it recover, and it doesn't, and it fully starts going up. I don't start getting into the like break even. I place that trade on the 27th, and I start to get break even on it like right around here. Hold on a sec. Let me just remove this and get on this. So I start getting break even right around here. Yeah. And, but I'm also looking at my charts as I'm going break even. I'm watching the trend go all the way up. Look at this trend. And there's no indicator yet on this chart that's actually giving me a full sell sign. There's a red arrow here, but that's not the full indicator to sell on this chart. And so I don't sell out here. And I watch this thing go all the way up, and it's still going all the way up. And so the initial trade that I got into at 9.7 that tanked down to 7.5. Now, if you look at the metrics on this as of today, you're looking at it's up at 12.4 or whatever it's at. Okay. Closed today about 12.57. So now you're looking at it. It starts at 9.7. I buy it, drops down to 7.5, 30%. And now it recovers and it goes up to 12.5, which is up whatever that is, like another 30%. It's up. So it's down 30%. It's up 30%. So now I get in December 27th. I have to wait 10, 11 days. And now I can exit this thing at a 30% gain by being patient. And operating from this standpoint of very simple, I know for me personally, I know that MicroStrategy is going up over the next 5, 6, 7 months, even when it bottomed out and people were flipping out. I'm like, I know it's going back up. Positive it's going back up for my own personal investment choices. So I just hang into it. And now I can exit at a 30% if I want. But the chart's still not telling me to sell out, so I'm not going to exit out yet. And I'm going to wait for the chart to tell me to sell out. When this blue line turns to yellow, which might be tomorrow or the next day, or we might ride it up, then I will sell out of that short-term trade for a gain. And then I'll watch it go up, and I'll wait for it to drop back in. I'll buy in again, and I'll wait for it to go back up again, and I'll trade out again. Make sense? So that was from a short-term perspective. All right? So that is the short-term trade. Then I'll show you the long-term trade in a second here, but I just want to check in because I can't see the graphs here. I can't see the box here of people putting comments in. So that's the short-term trade. So if you're wondering and just joining in, like, what was I trading there? I'm trading a 2x version of MicroStrategy. And so I got in that trade 9 days ago. It went immediately, not immediately, but over 2-3 days, it dropped 30%. I stayed in the trade, and now it's up 30%. Not up 30% from the bottom. It's up 30% from where I bought it. Okay. Which is good. So then I could exit out at a profit. So on my short-term trading, I'm looking at 1 to 2 days. And again, you can lose money. I don't recommend that people trade. It is super risky. You have to study the charts, understand what you're doing, observe it, watch it, understand the markets, understand the thing that you're trading, look at the bigger picture, and then I make decisions on things. But it's a fun game, and I only do it with about 4% of my portfolio, and it's fun, and I enjoy it, and it's a great game. Okay. So this one happened to work out because I stayed in and I waited for it to recover, and now I'll exit at a profit. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, a second thing that I did. What's up, Richard King? How you doing, bud? So a second thing that I did along with that short-term trade is I felt that when MicroStrategy was down at 280, I felt that we were at the bottom. Now, I can't time the markets perfectly. I don't have a crystal ball. But I was looking at a few things and going, okay, well, it's holiday season. We just had the Jerome Powell announcement. I'm looking at the typical scenario in a bull run where this is just like we're halfway through the bull run or more. And so we got more bull run to come. And I'm looking at my own stable operating basis of, do I know that Bitcoin and MicroStrategy are going to go up over the next 5 to 6 months? And in my purview of things, the answer is yes. So when I'm looking at MicroStrategy drop to 280, I'm like, in present time, for me, that was a great buy. Okay. But instead of jumping into MicroStrategy, which I already hold large positions in, and I got into MicroStrategy before the stock split in early 2024 in February. So rather than jumping into MicroStrategy, I jumped into a 2x of MicroStrategy called MSTU. And that's the charts that I was just showing. And so in the short term, I like to trade this stock because it's super volatile. And I like to get in and out in a couple days, like buy in, sell out in a couple days. I fear a little bit shorting this stock, and I have done it before successfully, but I don't short the stock much because I'm like, okay, if I short this thing and I'm wrong, I know MicroStrategy is going up and MSTU is going up over the next several months. So I'm like, if I short it and I'm wrong and we just go on a rocket ride, I'm sitting in that position. I might never recoup it. So I enter long positions on this 2x version of MicroStrategy, and I hold it for a day or two and I trade out. This one that I just showed you, I was stuck in it for 9 days because the market tanked. And I held on to it, and now it's up 30%. Okay? So that's a little bit of short term. That's great, Stoic said. Stoic Outdoor says, late to the game, but bought in at 288 based on your MicroStrategy explanation video. Cool. Great. Very cool. Again, glad you guys are having fun with this. Not financial advice, just educating and sharing knowledge. But these types of things are, when you're looking at something from a macro viewpoint, which I like to look at, and I'm looking at the next 6 to 7 months and also the next 4 to 5 years, I think you need to look at it from two perspectives. One, what's going to happen in the next 5 to 6 months? I think we're going to have a rocket ride up, and I think there is going to be some rocket ride down. So, I'm not looking at placing trades right now where I just bought into a 2x version of MicroStrategy, and I'm not holding that for a year, 2, 3 years at all. Okay. I got into that 9 days ago. I'm getting out of that one trade in a couple days or whenever it tells me to. And then I bought into a 2x version of MicroStrategy around that same time that I will be holding for months, and I'm just going to watch it ride up. Okay. And I bought into a longer term version of that when the market bottomed out. And I'll show you what I did, and I'll show you the results of it, and I'll show you why I'm holding it. But when we hit the top or we get near to the top and along the way, I will be taking profits, because I will not watch MicroStrategy run all the way up and then run all the way down. Now, I was totally willing to do that. Over the last couple months, I was fine running up to 530, and it runs all the way down to 280 because I was still heavy in profits even when it hit 280. But I'm not going to watch it run all the way up again, which I think all the way up to me is 800, 1,000, 1,300, and then ride all the way down when we hit some kind of bear market, if we hit a bear market. And based on the history of bull runs that I've seen and lived through, I know it goes up Bitcoin and then it goes down at some point. So in terms of my belief and my conviction long-term in Bitcoin, do I own Bitcoin? Do I invest in Bitcoin? Yes. Am I holding Bitcoin? Yes. Will I hold Bitcoin long-term? Yes. Have I taken profits on Bitcoin? Yes. Will I continue to hold Bitcoin throughout the bull run, watch it go up and some bear? Yes. Will I take some profits? Yes. On MicroStrategy, will I take a high degree of profits as it runs up and we start to hit what I think we're going to hit 800? I think we're also going to hit 900. I think we could hit 1,000. Will I start taking profits? Yes. And will I take a high degree of profits? Absolutely. Okay. So just know, for me personally, not financial advice, not telling you what to do, but for me personally, I'm like, I'm not watching that sucker go up hundreds of percents and drop hundreds of percents as we come to the end of the bull run. Now, the flip side of that, we could have more institutional adoption, like we're seeing. More and more companies are adopting the MicroStrategy playbook. We're seeing, governments that are starting to get the itchy trigger finger. We've already seen governments pour into Bitcoin. We're seeing the United States coming up with a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and we'll see what Trump does on it. We have indicators pointing towards governments are apparently going to be getting into this more heavily. And so we could have a whole FOMO game where people are just chasing this down, and we have institutions buying up Bitcoin. We have governments buying up Bitcoin, and we could see a run like we've never seen before. But we could also see the opposite, right? So be cautious. I'm not the bulk of my money that I put into these investments is not anything that I'm doing present day. The bulk of my money has been put in a long time ago. So whatever you're doing today, you have to make your own decisions on it and be smart about it, and know that, bull runs don't last forever. And we will see a run up. And my hunch is a very, very good hunch that we will see a run down. So it's very possible that Bitcoin could run up. We could hit 150. I think we will hit 150. I think it's possible to hit 170 or 180. And I think in a bull run case, we'll hit 200, 250 in like a super bull run. And then it's possible that we drop down to 100, 90, 80, 70 and drop back down. So if I were making a decision to buy Bitcoin today, which I'm not, because I started buying in 2018, if I were making the decision today, I would be looking at it from the same time horizon I was looking at it when I bought in 2018 and bought in 2020. 2020, because I knew more about Bitcoin at that time. So I was more steady in my education and my knowledge of it. Actually, 2019. And I was more steady in my education, my knowledge. So I was layering in, I was jumping in. I was like, okay, great. There's a portion of this Bitcoin that I will hold forever. And now looking at it, I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to continue to hold Bitcoin. But looking at positions like MicroStrategy, which are much more volatile, I'm not going to stomach that ride up and ride down. So, so that's my play on it. Now, I do like volatility, and I do play with volatility. So I'm going to show you the second thing that I did, which is I jumped into some 2x MicroStrategy called MSTU for a longer term time horizon, which to me is about 4 or 5 months. And my target on this is from where I got in, I think I'm going to see 600% on this. Okay. So let's look at it. Not financial advice, not telling you get in this. This is super, super risky, super, super volatile. It can go up by 60% and it can go down by 60%. You could get into this position and get wiped out. So I do not recommend anybody get into this for the long term. I'm not recommending anybody do anything. I'm just showing you what I like to do to give you some knowledge on some things that are going on with MicroStrategy and versions of it like MSTU. So let's look at the screen here. Okay. Boom. Okay. Same stock I was showing before on a short-term trade. Now I'm going to show you what I did for the long term. Okay. So I get in. I get in. The market bottoms out as of recent, right? The market bottoms out right here, right around December 31st. Okay. So this stock does not trade like MicroStrategy. If you look at MicroStrategy's price point is 380 right now, or 379. It closed at 379. MSTU, a 2x version of MicroStrategy, is at $12.40. So if you go look up MSTU right now after hours, is at $12.40. But I see the market bottoming out here at $7.57. So my logic on this of like, and I was talking to my friend about this, and so kudos to him on this because he gets the credit for this. And so I jumped into the 2x version of MicroStrategy months and months and months back. Okay. Bought it much lower than $7.50. Okay. Much lower. Okay. And so that was a good move. But then at that time, I didn't have the knowledge that this particular stock, that where you see the circle here, was bottoming out around $7.50 recently, bottoming out. And I'm like, dude, this was at $30 a couple months back. And if we go, you know what, we can go look at this and trace this back and see where this was. Let's go back and look at this. So you're looking at $7.50, and let's go back and look at where it was Thursday, December 19th. I mean, you had $18 there. You got 18. There's a sell sign for it. Oh my God, you have a total tank. Look at this line going down here. I mean, you have $22 here. You got to go look back up. You have $27 here that the line's at. So maybe that was, anyway, we'll just take this as a 27 example. I know it was over $30. So, but you take this here, and I'm going to show you this. So you look at it now and you go, move drawings. Let's get the paintbrush going. And you look up the top here, and this is, guys, this is a $27 price point here. It's trading now at $12.37. And I know that this thing was over $30 because I remember seeing it over $30. In fact, this stock split, it was at $300. And then when it split, it went down to this pricing of like $10 range, $12 range. But it was up at over $30. And so when you're looking at this peak here, you see $27 and you see MSTU is trading at $12.30 now. And now if you fast forward it, and this is how I'm making my decisions on it. And you go here again, not financial advice, not recommending you do this, super, super risky. But I'm just showing you how I take advantage of the volatility of certain versions of MicroStrategy here. And so we go all the way up and we take a $27 and you look at these lines going all the way down and you come to present day. And then you look at where my buddy and I were talking about this. And we were like looking at this, and right around here, I think he and I were having dinner. I don't know when we were having dinner, December 30th or whatever. And so the price point on this is at the bottom here is this is the buy. So this is where I bought $7.50 to give you the exacts on it. I'll give you exacts. Let me just pull this up for you. Because I bought 4 different times that day in one day. So I bought, and this is not my short-term trade. This is this is a longer-term trade. So this is not like a 2 to 9 day trade. This is like a several-month trade where I'm going to hold this for multiple months. So I look at the buys on this thing, and I'm looking at the recent buys: $8.37, $7.47, $8.27, $7.87. You can trace it back to October when I bought it at $4.28. That trade is up. It's at 12. Yeah, look at it. It's up 300%. So if you look at the recent trades though, and you look at the average buy-ins below $8 here. So my average buy-ins below $8. And so now you look at it and we're already at $12.30. So in a few day time horizon, that's up over 40-something%. Make sense? Okay. And at my lowest point of buying it at $7.47, that's up like 60-something%. So again, super risky, but I'm looking at this and I'm going, hey, at this point here, like it's the end of the year. You have institutions that are selling out their positions for tax reasons, rebalancing their positions at the end of the year. Jerome Powell makes the announcement. The economy goes bearish. During the Christmas holidays, things go bearish anyway. People go silent. They're on vacations. And we just watch it drop. And I'm like, I feel like we're at the bottom here. I'm watching the charts. It looks like we're at the bottom. And I can get in at this position at $7.47. I'm going to take it. So I get in and I layer in 4 times that day. And then you watch this rocket ride over just a couple days here. And now you watch the rocket ride and we watch it go all the way up here. So that's up, that's up more than that. That's up 54% on average. And some of the trades that I made are up 60-something%. Okay. But the average of them is about 54-55%. So that's some good juju right there, And I'm going to continue to hold this. And I'm going to watch it go back up. And again, here's the logic. So when I showed you the $27 that it was at a couple months ago, I'm like, to me, and this is just my viewpoint, there's no way in my universe that that's not going back up to the $27 it was at. I just don't think there's any possible way we don't hit that. Okay. My universe, my choice, not investment advice. Okay. So when I'm making the decision, I'm like, okay, we're down at 750. The high was 30. That's a 4x from here. The high was 30. I showed you 27, but the high was actually 30. So I'm like, that's a 4x. So I'm like, we're going to go up 4x. Are we going to hit what MicroStrategy hit 2 months ago? Yeah. Is the 2x going to hit what it hit a couple months ago? Yeah. Are we going to hit that during the bull run? I'm like, yeah. So I know when I buy in at $7.50 or $7.80, it's a 4x at a minimum. Then if MicroStrategy, instead of hitting its 530 high in the last couple months, if it goes up to 800, the 2x version of it, MSTU, what could that go to? That's how I'm getting a 6 or 7x or 6 or 700% out of this. Okay. So that's that's my mentality in looking at it. And will I hold MSTU more than those several months? No. Are the fees inside there high? Yes. So really, if it's supposed to do a 2x of MicroStrategy and there's some fees, it's not really going to do a 2x, right? So it'll do a little bit less than 2x. But that's why I'm looking at a 600% or 700% rather than an 800%. I think it's possible it could do 800%. My conservative case is 400% from where I bought it, not from here, from where I bought it was $7.50. So that's how I'm looking at it. And my approach to it is I think I'll be right because that's why I made the trade. And then the other way that I look at it, and I'll give you one more viewpoint on it, not tax advice at all, but for my own situation, I'm like, great. So if, and let's just do the math on this to make it easy. So here's how I'm looking at it. So anything that I do short term, right? I live in California, so you're paying high taxes, right? So my Bitcoin, I got long-term capital gains on it. So if I take some profits, it's all long-term capital gains. On my MicroStrategy, when I take profits, because I got it in February of 2024, so in a month, it's all long-term capital gains, or the majority of it, right? And then the stuff that I'm trading in and out of and playing high leverage on, like MSTU, it's going to be short-term capital gains for most of it, right? So I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, well, on these high leverage investments that I'm making, I'm like, okay, so if I'm in this thing and I can do in MicroStrategy, I can do a 2x to what Bitcoin's doing. And in this MSTU, which is a 2x of MicroStrategy, which makes it a 4x of Bitcoin, hypothetically, that's what it's supposed to do. We don't know if it will. If I could do a 4x to Bitcoin, then, and that rockets up and I sell it off and I pay some tax, because I took $1 and instead of turning it into 2, I took $1 and I turned it into 4 and I sell off. Some of those extra gains that I made will be used to help with some of my taxes. Okay. And that's how I'm looking at it. So when I started to look at my tax planning, this is not tax advice at all, but I started looking at my tax plan. I'm like, if I can get some high leverage on this and make some trades and get 4x, 5x, 6x, 7x, then that helps me with some of my tax burden when I do take profits. Okay. So that's the perspective that I took. Yeah, I actually, yeah. So he's like, moved to Florida. Totally 2.5 years been in Florida. So totally get it. Right. So actually I've been in Florida the last 2.5 years. I'm in California now. But, you know, you got to look at where you are. If you're part-time in California, you got to consult with a tax advisor on what you're doing because the laws are very strict if you're in California. Also, there are very, very good charitable tax strategies that I use because I'm charitably inclined that help me out as well and help charity out as well. So it's a win-win. So there you go. Rock says, show me the money. I like it. Rock says, stack and sats. Rock got shares of MSTU at $7. Cool. So there you go. I'm not. Chris is saying, what about call options and letting it run all the way up? I was on the phone with an acquaintance of mine the other day, and he was walking me through the call options, and we were looking at them. It's not my expertise. And we were looking at it, and I'm like, okay, technically, when I was looking at the math, I'm like, okay, it could do more than what I'm doing with MSTU right now, but I'm like, I don't want to do it. It would perform better if it hits certain metrics, and if it doesn't, it might not. So I'm just comfortable with this. I trade it. I've been observing it and watching it for months and months and months, for literally going on the 5th month now on MSTU. So I'm very comfortable with how it moves. I'm very comfortable with reading the chart. So I just stick with things that I understand better. So there you have it. So that's the story. Chris says 700 to 800 MicroStrategy in a month is still possible. You think? I don't know. I don't know about a month, because I don't know what's going to happen. But I think in the next 5 to 6 months, I think that's super real. I think it's super real. So, and in fact, 800 is what my base case is for MicroStrategy in 2025. Do I think we could go higher? Yes. But again, if I was investing today into MicroStrategy, which I'm not because I bought my positions earlier in the year, what I am investing in now is a little bit of leverage, MSTU, for the short term. And if I was investing today and I was thinking it was going to go up to 800, I would be very prudent and smart about what I was doing, and know that it could go up to 800 and it could drop back down to 200 or lower, So you just got to look at that. But I would also be watching it and looking at it and paying attention for the next 5 to 6 months and taking some profits on it, particularly if I was investing today, because I wouldn't want to watch it go all the way up and go all the way down again. And I don't know so many of you have probably been in crypto for a while and you've experienced Bitcoin going up and going all the way down. No matter how much of a cast iron stomach you have, it's hard to stomach, and you got to have strong conviction to hold it long term, which I do. But you also got to have strong conviction not to take some profits. And I think the smart thing is taking some profits on things. You look at Michael Saylor, he doesn't sell at all, but you could imagine how he felt when Bitcoin went up and that shot down 80% in 2020. Despite the fact that he is strong as a leader and when you perceive him, you're like, wow, this guy's rock solid. He's all the way in. I fully believe that he is all the way in, but you can't, you won't be surprised if he was a little bit nervous or feeling the heat when Bitcoin dropped 80%. Come on. Of course he was, Does it mean he's going to abandon his strategy? I don't think so at all. I think he's going to stick to his strategy. I fully believe what he says. I don't think he's going to sell Bitcoin. I don't think MicroStrategy is going to get liquidated. But man, you got to have some steel in your stomach to be able to weather what he weathers, particularly now with him owning MicroStrategy, not just Bitcoin, but he owns the company MicroStrategy, and to watch his shares go all the way up and all the way down in 2025, this guy's got to have serious conviction. But in the long run, he's the hero. And look at him after 2020, 4 years later, he's the hero. And in 2028, after we go up in 2025 and we come down, and then he's still holding in 2028, 2027, he'll be the hero again. 2032, same thing. And he'll get questioned along the way. And that's just what will happen. And that's why he's the leader, and that's why he's brilliant, and that's why he's a genius, and that's why I think he made the smartest financial move of the entire last 100 years of any company, because he's a genius. But that doesn't mean that I treat my investment portfolio like a Michael Saylor, because I don't have his capital, So I'm making decisions. I also didn't get into MicroStrategy when it was first MicroStrategy at zero, right? I bought my first shares of MicroStrategy early in 2020, a very small amount. And then I bought my real shares of MicroStrategy, my large amounts, in early 2024 of February. So if you're looking at leading a company like he is and holding Bitcoin as your reserve asset, he's in it for the long game, and he's got to take the ups and downs. But he also bought in, let's not forget, to Bitcoin at 12,000, 14,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, 90,000. And that's just part of his strategy. If I'm looking at it today and I'm new to crypto or I'm new to MicroStrategy, I'm not making the decisions in the way that he's making them, where I'm going to buy a MicroStrategy now and just hold it through the next 4 years, right? Might I hold some? Yes. Am I going to hold the majority? No. Okay. Because I just firmly believe it's going to go way up and it will go way down. So get ready. And what you do for yourself, you got to make your own prudent decisions. Get the knowledge, look at both sides of the coin. Long term, do I think it's a winner? Do I think we'll be having this conversation 4 years from now and MicroStrategy will be way, 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 way beyond where it is now? Yes. Am I willing to stomach that up and down this year? Not the full up and down. So do your due diligence, take a look, get knowledge on it, study for yourself, look at the graphs, look at the charts, start to learn that and see what you want to do. Okay. At the end of the day, I hope and wish the best for you in 2025. I know that you're crushing it. I hope you're doing well with your families and your business and your career and everything that you're doing. I hope that you made some great choices and that you're happy with the choices in terms of what you're doing from a wealth standpoint. And anything I share here is just for example purposes, not financial advice, not legal advice, not tax advice, not investment advice, not security advice, but hope it's just fun to go through it and be here as a community and learn from each other. All right. Hope you have a good one. See you on the flip side and see you tomorrow.